See that doorway? The one right over there. Wait, let me get up closer. There we go. That place is the worst dungeon in all of Outland, without a doubt. The design behind it is so bad, I almost think the intention was to make it as bad as possible. Oh, and hi people, by the way. It might not necessarily be the hardest dungeon. I suppose Blood Furnace on Heroic is ridiculous, but that is mainly because of straight up mean numbers that are difficult to deal with in any good way. Oh, and the fact that the ads on the second boss can't be crowd control or slowed. The Tank Slayer Pandemonium in Monatomes on Heroic is also very hard. Did you notice how his name is what Shen Stormstout always says in Warcraft 3?
I bring Pandemonium!
If that doesn't tell you what kind of boss he is, well, anyway, issue with Pandemonium or the mobs inside Blood Furnace is just that they hit ridiculously hard. But the design decisions made inside Shattered Halls are not found in any other dungeon anywhere. Not in Outland, not in Azeroth, not in any WoW expansion as far as I know. To start out with, Dungeon is extremely strict when it comes to group composition. There is no other instance that is as punishing for bringing a non-optimized composition, and the optimal composition, by the way, is 1 mage, 2 warlocks, and a healer really, and I'd personally say either a paladin or a warrior tank. I'll get into why I think warriors can be a good option very soon. Anyway, what you do is have the tank group up a bunch of mobs and then let the casters go absolute ham on them. Since there are very few casters in there, kite killing works amazingly. Blizzard Slow combined with Seeds of Corruption is absolutely massive damage. A solid group can get a full run done in like 25 minutes this way, making it one of the fastest Outland instances in the game. However, you still kill something like 100 mobs, excluding bosses, making it one of the most mob-dense instances in the game. As for why warriors might be good, if they've spec'd into Piercing Howl, they will have an easier time pulling and gathering the mobs, and they can help out with the slowing of them as well. But besides that, paladins are obviously way better at dealing AoE damage. However, you really don't want to try and tank the pulls, or at least not if you can do the massive pulls. Which you should if you can. I suppose feral druids work just as fine when gathering up mobs. But what if you don't bring this composition? What kind of problems do you then find yourself facing? Well, first of all the packs are surprisingly big. Some of the melee packs consist of 6 mobs. Even with double crowd control, you still have 4 left. Just getting threats on that many mobs is difficult for any tank that is not a paladin. On heroic difficulty, they hit pretty damn hard, especially for being in packs of 6. Like, you can't tank that, you just die. It's like those dungeons where the mobs one-shot anything that isn't a tank. Things just tend to deteriorate into chaos if you can't kite kill, but instead have to do the old-fashioned tank and spank. The issue here is not that mages and warlocks have a great time in there, it's even kind of good in a way, since the reputation reward from the faction connected to this instance is a great caster main hand, and this is the place where you have to grind out the reputation. The issue is, like mentioned, just how much you're punished for deviating from the double warlock mage composition. It's just ridiculous. You can just see here with the footage how insanely efficient this combination is. Meanwhile, this very strict composition requirements might be the worst part of the instance. The next thing isn't exactly great either. Almost every single pack inside this instance will fully respawn unless you completely clear them. The big packs of 6, if you wipe with 2 mobs left, all of them respawn. There is no other dungeon where anything works like that. No other dungeon whatsoever is even close. It's like every single pull inside the instance is counted as an event where you have to restart from scratch if you don't succeed. This can make heroic runs very punishing. If you clear half a pack in any other heroic dungeon and wipe, then you only have the other half left once you're back on your feet. But not in this dungeon, oh no. You didn't kill all of the mobs in that pack before you died? Then you have everything left. You might even find yourself wiping over and over on the same pack because of this mechanic. What even is that? Why is that? It's like banging your head against a wall that rebuilds itself. Next up, this pack right here is very often bugged. It can just pull itself out of nowhere. For some reason, it sometimes has an aggro radius 3 times bigger than the other 3 identical packs. There's just no reason, it's just straight up bugged. Oh, and did I mention that this mob right here buffs the entire pack? And you have to kill him first, because he will either summon new mobs or pull nearby packs to you if you kill any other mob before him, and he's the toughest mob in the entire pack. You're stuck between a rock and a hard place, except the rock respawns unless completely annihilated, and the hard place is bugged, so that it might just pull nearby mobs to you no matter what you do. Oh, and then we have the rogues. There are like 8 of them. First they sap you, sometimes even when you are in combat, and then they ship shot you. And they one-shot almost everything that isn't a tank. And some of them patrol over huge areas. And some are in places where you would never check unless you knew it from before, since you were fared into that place in an earlier run. And any rogue that you don't kill will come to you during the final boss battle. That's a great combination, eh? Hide the rogues in places where no one ever looks, and then have any rogues not dead come to the final boss fight. Oh, and on heroic, they one-shot almost everyone who's not a tank. So if the tank misses even one and gets sapped, it can legit wipe you. Just one-shotting everyone, while the tank just stands there, sapped, stunned, whatever, forced to look as everyone dies around him from this one failure. And finally, the final boss. He has been so bugged that in the current state, you're supposed to do the exact opposite of what was the successful strategy 4 weeks ago. What you used to do was to stack the group just behind the boss and then get all the mob that spawns throughout the fight on top of him. This way he never did the charge. Nowadays you have to spread out as much as possible instead, I think. I don't even think anyone knows how to deal with that mechanic properly. Look at any video of a Shattered Halls heroic online, and in all of them it's just sheer luck that the boss died. There is no strategy, it's just RNG. This time the healer didn't get charged 5 times, and so we got the boss. But there is nothing you can do about it. He has been hotfixed at least twice within the last 4 weeks. A fun part of the fight is that 2 rogues spawns just outside his arena when you begin the encounter. The reason they are there is to prevent you from resetting the fights, because whenever he leaves the square he resets. Now, this is just fun, because that means you can't reset should someone die. You just reset the boss and then you get ganked by the rogues instead, because Blizzard makes sure you have to do the run back. Oh, and the rogues will stealth very soon after being spawned, so you might not even notice them in the first place. It's a very long and linear dungeon, by the way, although you might be surprised at how fast you can run back compared to how long it took to clear the whole thing. But anyway, here's the real issue with the rogues. So you know how he charges both friend and foe alike when he does the charge? Well, what he used to do was charge to the rogues outside the arena if he was ever tanked anywhere near the entrance. And then he would just reset himself and you'd still have the rogues. So often what happened was that he reset to full health, grabbed the 2 rogues to join the fight, and then aggroed you again. And what they eventually did was fix so he didn't charge the rogues. Whoa, the dungeon now works perfectly. You should never even go into this place on heroic, except for the one time when you have to attune for Serpent Shrine Caverns. Oh, and you have to do a timed run for that. After killing the first boss, you have to clear everything before the last prisoner is executed, and that takes like 75 minutes, I think. You might think that's a lot of time, but likely you'll change your mind when doing the run. As you might realize, I've done a few runs lately. 13 runs on normal and 2 on heroic when grinding Exalted with Thrallmar for the warrior axe for a protection warrior, and I've disliked almost all of those runs. The only saving grace for this excuse of a dungeon is that the classes that actually need the reputation, meaning primarily mages, warlocks, and protection paladins, have an easy time in there. Maybe that's the whole point of the instance, to be a rep grind for those classes no one else should ever enter. Or, I mean, you can enter anyway, I don't know, I don't really care, I'll never enter this instance again, except for when my potential protection paladin hits 70 and I need to grind out the instance for Thrallmar reputation. But that will only be with the optimized group setup, because I CBA at this point. Anyway, that was a bit of a rant. I hope you'll never have to deal with this garbage dungeon yourself. Make sure to like if you've enjoyed listening to me complaining. Oh, and subscribe. I almost never complain though, I promise. This was all from me for now. I'll quite possibly be back soon with another video. Until then, see ya!